Okay,
It just hurt me because, Jovi, I didn't choose the way I was born.
I understand. Listen. Lucy, I love you, okay? Look.
Everyone thinks Jovi's just a goofy husband. Wrong. He's running a full-scale psychological operation on his own wife. There is something uniquely grotesque about watching a man so far out of his league that he turns admiration into sabotage. Jovi's relationship with Yara isn't a love story. It's a case study in insecurity masquerading as banter, in cruelty disguised as humor. What began as harmless teasing has calcified into a pattern of passive-aggressive contempt so glaring it could be used as a textbook illustration of emotional erosion. Every interaction between the two plays like a lesson in how not to treat one's partner. Yara spends hours preparing herself, emerging in full glam, hair, makeup, outfit impeccable, and her husband, sitting there in his thermal underwear, barely lifts his eyes from his phone. His grand review? A shrug and a flat, looks good. When she attempts to engage playfully, asking whether her necklaces look right, he sidesteps the opportunity for a compliment and instead comments that her pants are so tight they might rip. When she jokes about being flexible enough to do the splits, he responds with, "You can't even do the splits." This isn't teasing, it's contempt. A slow, corrosive drip of degradation designed to keep her from realizing just how far above him she stands. Jovi's behavior isn't random, it's strategy. Negging is his love language, if one can call it that. His every comment functions as a preemptive strike against Yara's confidence. The formula is simple. The more radiant she appears, the more he must chip away at her self-esteem. Because if she ever saw herself clearly, a beautiful, witty, self-assured woman, she might also see that her husband is, at best, a juvenile boy trapped in a grown man's job. The most chilling part of Jovi's demeanor is how casually he carries this contempt. It's not fiery or passionate, it's indifferent. There's no spark of jealousy or possessiveness, only the dull satisfaction of someone who knows he's slowly winning the war of attrition against his wife's confidence. When Yara calls him out on his behavior, his response is predictably dismissive. A shrug, a hollow, "Sorry, stop being so sensitive." The kind of apology that only reinforces the insult. What Jovi practices is emotional leveling, the quiet art of dragging down what one cannot rise to meet. Yara is, by any measure, out of his league. Attractive, poised, quick-witted, and far more emotionally literate. Instead of being proud, Jovi treats this as a personal affront. He weaponizes her strengths against her, using sarcasm as a scalpel. The goal is simple: make her believe she's lucky to have him, so she never questions why she's miserable. Insecurity, of course, is at the heart of it all. Jovi's fragile ego has been publicly pummeled by years of being told his wife is too good for him, and the evidence supports the claim. His solution? Ensure she never feels good enough to leave. This is the oldest trick in the book of mediocre men. Convince the woman she's the problem, then punish her for doubting herself. He's the type who'll tell a woman she's too sensitive when she's hurt, or trying too hard when she's radiant. It's the psychological equivalent of holding someone's head underwater and then congratulating them for learning to breathe less. When Yara's friends arrive and shower her with the warmth and affirmation she should receive from her husband, his blank expression speaks volumes. He doesn't flinch, doesn't smile, just sits there, quietly offended by someone else recognizing her worth. Behind the humor and occasional self-deprecation, Jovi reveals something uglier, a misogynistic streak cloaked in boyish charm. His admiration for strippers, his fixation on women's bodies, his sneering remarks about Yara's post-birth appearance, all point to a man who measures women by the degree to which they orbit around him. When he isn't belittling Yara, he's ogling someone else. It's less a marriage than an ego exercise. Yara's humor, her resilience, and her bright personality serve as armor. One suspects she laughs so she doesn't cry. But the cracks are visible. The constant rejection, the absence of validation, the quiet humiliation of being ignored by the man who should be her biggest fan. It all leaves its mark. Watching her stretch for his approval, only to be met with his indifference, is quietly heartbreaking. She's trying to negotiate with someone whose primary pleasure is denying her peace. At this point, Jovi's contempt feels less like immaturity and more like pathology. He treats Yara less as a partner and more as an inconvenience he must constantly outshine. The irony, of course, is that he cannot. She outclasses him effortlessly. She's polished, quick-thinking, and unafraid to express herself. He's the human embodiment of the shrug emoji, emotionally inert and intellectually stagnant. He behaves not like a husband, but like the mean girl in a high school cafeteria, lobbing petty insults to mask envy. It's telling that his favorite pastime, strip clubs, mirrors his emotional worldview. Women as decoration, validation as transaction, affection as performance. He doesn't want connection, he wants control. And when that control falters, when Yara shows signs of independence or self-assurance, he retaliates through ridicule. There's also the suffocating presence of his mother, another axis of control. His eagerness to return home to Louisiana, to the comforting shadow of maternal supervision, suggests that his sense of manhood depends entirely on proximity to someone who will enable him. Keeping Yara in that environment, isolated, outnumbered, observed, isn't accidental. It's a way to contain her. What makes the situation tragic rather than merely irritating is that Yara still seems to believe this relationship can be salvaged. She asks for validation like it's a rare luxury, and he doles it out sparingly, with all the enthusiasm of a man being forced to compliment a stranger. She doesn't see that his affection is conditional, his warmth performative, and his apologies hollow. Jovi's behavior isn't just unpleasant, it's contemptuous. And contempt, as every relationship expert will confirm, is the final nail in a marriage's coffin. Once a partner feels disgust rather than affection, the game is over, and that disgust radiates off Jovi in waves. He doesn't like Yara. He doesn't even seem to like himself. His resentment toward her beauty, her confidence, her social presence, it's a mirror of his own inadequacy. Some viewers argue that Yara can be self-centered or superficial, that she doesn't compliment him either. But that misses the point. There's a chasm between playful teasing and persistent belittlement. One is mutual, the other is corrosive. Jovi's pattern of humiliation isn't balanced by occasional banter. It's his entire method of communication. He doesn't lift, he levels. The simplest explanation remains the truest. He's jealous. He knows exactly how far out of his depth he is. Every insult, every joke, every eye roll is an attempt to even the playing field. His only power lies in dimming her light, and he's clinging to it for dear life. If there's any justice, Yara will one day wake up and realize that the validation she's been begging for from a man who can't even spell empathy is better found in solitude. Because a husband who treats his wife like an inconvenience is not a husband at all. Just a boy terrified of being left behind. The great irony of Jovi's insecurity is that it guarantees the very outcome he fears. By chipping away at Yara's confidence, he ensures that one day she'll recognize exactly how little he brings to the table. And when she finally walks away, radiant and unbothered, he'll have no one left to blame but the man in the mirror. The one who mistook contempt for control and sarcasm for strength. Subscribe for more.